Hello, friends. I'd like to talk to you right now about the 8 course themes of AP U.S. history that we're going to refer to throughout our study of U.S. history this year, and that College Board also uses to kind of group information in the course. Were we face-to-face, this is usually like an entire class period lesson. These themes will take a little while to kind of get used to, so I'm trying to translate this into a video that you can watch on your own time and then hopefully refer back to as you need help with these. How are we going to learn them, and why do we need them? Two important questions to kind of set the context for this video. We're going to learn them by using an acronym. And the acronym we're going to use is CAMPSITE, and I'll show you why that's the acronym in a moment as we go through all of them. And I think an important way to think about the CAMPSITE themes is that they're lenses for analyzing history. It's like you can pop on a pair of glasses and look at a text and think, okay, I'm reading what's in the text, I'm comprehending the details, I understand the kind of main idea of this author, but I'm also going to look at it from an economic history perspective, or a social history perspective, or a political history perspective, or maybe all three, in order to really have a deep understanding, not just of that document, but how it says something or helps you say something about history more broadly, right? That's really what we're working on in this class, is not just the details, but making arguments about history and about meaning. And if you can kind of pop these lenses on and off, that's going to make your analysis much stronger. So ways that you might use these lenses, these course themes in your own work this year is perhaps as categories of analysis in an essay. If you have a prompt and you need to figure out how am I going to answer this, these lenses can be a helpful way to kind of pop them on and look at your historical content. You may also be given some of these lenses in a prompt, right? You might see something like analyze the social, political, and economic outcomes of colonization in period 1, for example. They're also helpful, I think, to have in the back of your head as you are kind of looking to identify related keywords or grouping vocabulary. Your textbook, in fact, does this. If you've noticed, at the back of every chapter, at the end of every chapter, you get this page. I don't know if you can see that or not, where it's giving you key terms by theme. It's the same themes. They're using the College Board's little 3-letter codes for each of them, but you're going to get familiar with both the code and the 1-letter acronym that we're going to use. So, you ready? Here we go. So the first theme I want to talk about here is the C in CAMPSITE, which is going to stand for us for American and regional culture. So cultural history to me is super interesting, and when you think about it, these are some categories that you can kind of think of. I'll read through them a bit on this slide to just kind of get you started thinking about these, but as we move forward, I'm going to just kind of allow you to pause and sort of process these bullet points for yourself. So when we talk about culture, we're talking about a lot of different things, right? Culture is one of these broad words that encompasses a lot of different details. So when we're talking about culture, maybe we're talking about values, norms, assumptions, attitudes, and beliefs. Maybe we're talking about ideals that a society or a people or a country might have. Ideologies, right, which is related to beliefs, but a little bit different. Of course, when we think about culture, we're thinking about art, music, media, literature, clothing, food, right? Pop culture falls into this. In fact, there it is in the other column. Philosophies, religion, the concept of assimilation is sort of related to culture, right? People maybe from 2 different cultures negotiating those differences with each other, or one group maybe taking on some of the characteristics of the other. Morality and moral values, popular culture, like I said a moment ago, and the idea of American exceptionalism is sort of an example of a cultural facet of the history of the United States. The other thing I'd like to add here, and I'm going to do this for all of the CAMPSITE categories in this video, is to give you an example of what this might look like when a historian does this. So before watching this video, you should have read the first couple pages in a PDF that I included on Schoology from a book called These Truths by Jill Lepore. Jill Lepore is a Harvard professor of history. I love her writing. I think she has such an an amazing, unique, piercing voice when it comes to writing about history. I find her much more interesting to read than your AMSCO textbook, for example. And perhaps I thought you would as well. Just in those first couple pages, I think she does an amazing job of giving us some examples of how she's using these different lenses or some details that she's incorporating from these different kind of historical themes to talk about one specific moment, which is Columbus's discovery. I'm putting my that in finger quotes, although you can't see me right now. Discovery of the island of Haiti, essentially, and the people living there. So I'm going to pause here and switch over so you can see the passage that I highlighted that I think shows the cultural history work that she is doing in analyzing this historical moment. So this passage here, Panay sailed with Columbus in 1493. Arriving in Haiti, Panay met a man named Guati Cabanu, who knew all of the languages spoken on the island and who learned Panay's language, Castilian, and taught him his own. Panay lived with the natives, the Taino, for 4 years and delivered to Columbus his report, a manuscript he titled An Account of the Antiquities of the Indians. Not long afterward, it vanished. Now, this is part of a larger story that Jill Lepore is telling in this little excerpt about how history gets told. But for me, when I think about cultural history, this is transcription, right? This is using language. This is creating a piece of literature that's going to be used by the Spanish to help understand this new world that they have stumbled into. So for me, this little detail really works as an example of cultural history. So now that you have a little taste of how these themes work, I'm going to go through the rest of them, but I'm going to just introduce them and then ask you to take the opportunity to pause this video, think about the bullet points that are on each of these thematic slides, and then go back through Lepore's text and sort of flag for yourself, where do you see her using one of these lenses? And I will tell you, just in those couple of pages, I found at least one passage that I think could work for all of them. So, C is for culture, A is for America in the world. And here's Lepore's text. The next theme, M, is for migration and settlement. This is the part that I flagged in Lepore's text. I think probably some more sections of this particular excerpt could work for migration and settlement as well. P is for politics and power. And really, some historians would tell you that those two words kind of mean the same thing. Here's the section of Lepore's text that I flagged. S is for social structures. Social history or society are kind of your roots for understanding this theme. Here's where I flagged Lepore's text. I is for American and national identity. The question I think that always goes with this theme is the question of an identity crisis. Who are we? Who am I? Keep that in the back of your head when you think about this theme. Here's where I see it in Lepore's text. T is for work, exchange, and technology. This is the only one that I had a hard time fitting into the campsite acronym because really, if I were just giving this a better title, I would call it economic history. But we needed something for the T. So you can think of it, students in the past have thought of it as tech and taxes, and that seems to get them oriented towards thinking about this as an economic theme. Here's where I see it in Lepore's text. And finally, E is for geography and environment, which starts with the letter E. Probably not one of the most popular themes, not the theme that students always kind of have at the ready for analysis, but certainly a fascinating one, and one that's certainly in use quite a bit today as we think about climate change. Here's where I see it in Lepore's text. Okay, so that's all 8. What I would now like you to do is go back to your homework assignment and practice this a little bit. So you're going to choose something that's personal to you. You're going to give us a description of it, right? So the example that I give is like my pocket constitution from the other day. Tell us what it is, maybe even include a picture of it so we know what you're talking about. And then pick 3 of these themes to give us a very brief analysis. So I might say something like, politics and power is really important for understanding the Constitution because this is a document that's going to create the government system for the United States of America. This is literally how power is going to be organized. It's time to pick up my daughter. In the federal government. So give us your little description, give us 3 themes, and then after you've posted your response on the discussion page, you're going to find a friend's. Read what they've written, read about the 3 themes that they've chosen, and then just see if you can make an attempt to incorporate one more theme, maybe that occurs to you or a personal connection that you might make with their object or with their analysis to kind of get used to you working in these themes, but also practicing some analytical thinking because that is a huge part of what we're going to do this year. Good luck.